Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my channel. If you are new on my channel and watching it for the first time, so I request you to please subscribe the channel because this contains more than 500 videos on English language, literature and the effective use of technology. You will find plenty of material in form of MCQs, in subjective type items, in form of lectures, and in form of certain novel creativity which you can find here. So welcome to the 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. So this is what we are going to talk about today. Elif Shafak was born in Strasbourg, France in 1971. She's an award-winning novelist and the most widely read female writer in Turkey. Critics have hailed her as one of the most distinctive voices in contemporary literature in both Turkish and English. She is also the author of the novel The Bastard of Istanbul and her memoir Black Milk. Her books have been translated into more than 30 languages. Married with two children, Alif divides her time between London and Istanbul. So she first lived in Istanbul, then she went to States and then to London. So she keeps going from Turkey to England. The most distinguishing thing about the book is the letter B. Every chapter of the book starts with the letter B. It is because the secret of Quran lies in Surah Al-Fatiha and its spirit is contained in the phrase Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. The first Arabic letter of Bismillah has a dot below. It symbolizes the universe as per Sufism thoughts. 40-year-old Ella Rubinstein is an ordinary, unhappy housewife with three children and an unfaithful husband. But her life begins to change dramatically when she takes a job as reader for a literary agency. Her first assignment is a novel titled Sweet Blasphemy about the 13th century poet Rumi and his beloved Sufi teacher Shams of Tabraiz. The author is an unknown first-time novelist, Aziz Zahra, who lives in Turkey. Initially reluctant to take on a book about a time and place so different from her own, Ella soon finds herself captivated both by the novel and the man who wrote it, with whom she begins an email flirtation. As she reads, she begins to question the many ways she has settled for a conventional life devoid of passion and real love. At the center of the novel that Ella is reading is the remarkable wandering dervish Shams of Tabriz, a mystic who challenges conventional wisdom and social and religious prejudice whenever he encounters it. He is searching for the spiritual companion he is destined to teach. His soul's purpose is to transform his student Rumi, a beloved but rather complacent and mystical preacher, into one of the world's greatest poets, the voice of voice. Rumi is a willing student, but his family and community resent Shams deeply for upsetting their settled way of life. Rumi is admired, even revered in his community, and Shams must lead him beyond the comforts of his respectable way of life, beyond the shallow satisfaction of the ego. In essence, both Rumi and Ella, through their relationships with Shams and Aziz, are forced to question and then abandon the apparent safety and security of their lives for the uncertainty, ecstasy, and heartbreak of love. Neither Shams nor Aziz can offer anything like promise of lasting happiness. What they can offer is a taste of mystic union, divine love, and the deep harmony that arises when the false self, constructed to meet society's demand for respectability, is shed and the true self emerges. Along the way, Shams imparts the 40 rules of love, essential Sufi wisdom that Shams both preaches and embodies. He repeatedly defies social and religious conventions, putting himself in danger and drawing down the scorn and wrath of the self righteous, literal minded moralist who surrounded him. He inspires Rumi to become the poet that he was meant to be, one of the world's most passionate and profound voices of wisdom. Similarly, Aziz and his story of Rumi and Shams inspire Ella to step out of a marriage that has become emotionally and spiritually stifling to her. It is not an easy story that Elif Shafak tells, nor an entirely happy one. There are costs, she seems to say, to living in an authentic life, but as the novel shows, the cost of not living one are far greater. So here Shams Tabraiz has given 40 rules of love. So rule number one is how we see God is a direct reflection of how we see ourselves. If God brings to mind mostly fear and blame, it means there is too much fear and blame welled inside us. If we see God as full of love and compassion, so are we. So, according to first rule, God is representation of your own feeling and your own behavior. So, if you are most of the time not good to the people and you're not doing well to them, you are always afraid of God. You are fearing Him. And if you are loving towards people and if you're full of compassion, so God seems compassionate to you. Like Hazrat Ali said, that I love God and I worship Him because He is worthy to be worshipped. I am not like worshipping Him for the sake of Jannah or for the fear of Jahannam. I am worshipping Him because He is worthy to be worshipped. So the first rule of love is that God is a direct reflection how we see ourselves. Rule number two, the path to the truth is a labor of the heart, not of the head. Make your heart your primary guide, not your mind. Meet, challenge, and ultimately prevail over your nafs with your heart. Knowing your ego will lead you to the knowledge of God. So this tells that we should follow the heart, and this is the heart that takes us to the labor that is like we find in finding the real truth. So following the heart leads us to truth. So if the heart is our guide, and if you're not following the mind, if you're not being logical in this, because in love you have to be illogical. There is no love, there is no ishq without being illogical. So meet, challenge, and ultimately prevail over your nafs. So we need to conquer the nafs. So if we are able to conquer our nafs, that is our ego, we will get the knowledge of God. Rule 3. You can study God through everything and everyone in the universe because God is not confined in a mosque, synagogue, or church. But if you are still in need of knowing where exactly His abode is, there's only one place to look for Him, in the heart of a true lover. So this is said कि मस्जिद गिरा दें, मंदिर गिरा दें, लेकिन दिल को ना तोड़ें क्योंकि खुदा दिल में बसता है. So here we find that God resides in the heart. Though He is there in mosque, synagogue, or church, or everywhere where He is worshipped, but He is more closer to human being than he thinks. इंसान की शहरक से भी ज़्यादा खुदा उसके करीब है. So this is rule number 3. Rule 4. Intellect and love are made of different materials. Intellect ties people in knots and risks nothing, but love dissolves all tangles and risks everything. Intellect is always cautious and advises, beware too much ecstasy. Where love says, oh, never mind, take the plunge. Intellect does not easily break down, where love can effortlessly reduce itself to rubble. But treasures are hidden among ruins. A broken heart hides treasures. तू बचा बचा के न रख इसे, तेरा आईना है वो आईना, जो शिकस्ता हो तो अजीज तर है, निगाहे आईना साज में. So broken heart gives a way that leads to the God. It is said that intellect and love, they are made up of different materials, but their working is different. Intellect will always say, beware of too much ecstasy. And love will say, take the plunge. Like, जो इश्क है वो कहता है कि जो निगाह है वो आशिक पे, अपने माशूक पे, अपने यार पे होनी चाहिए. अकल कहती है कि निगाहों को संभाल के रखो. इश्क कहता है नहीं, देखना चाहिए. सो इश्क जो है ये इश्क ही था जिसकी वजह से वी फाइंड दैट so many prophets have set the examples. The fire that was burnt by नमरूद, जिसमें हज़रत इब्राहिम को फेंका गया, फिर हज़रत यूनुस जो मछली के पेट में गए थे, these were ecstasies, these were sublimities of love, these were the height of love. ये उस लव की, उस एक्सटेसी की, उस मोहब्बत की, उस इश्क की इंतहा थी जिसमें वो लोग छलांग मार देते थे. सिर्फ ब्लाइंड ट्रस्ट होता था खुदा के ऊपर. Rule 5. Most of problems of the world stem from linguistic mistake and simple misunderstanding. Don't ever take words at face value. When you step into a zone of love, language as we know it becomes obsolete. That which cannot be put into words can only be grasped through silence. Like God says, if you cannot understand my silence, you cannot understand my words. So sometimes heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. So where linguistic ends, there a silence of speech or speech of silence begins, which can only be understood by those who can interact with silence. Rule 6. Loneliness and solitude are two different things. When you are lonely, it is easy to delude yourself into believing that you're on the right path. Solitude is better for us as it seems being alone without feeling lonely. But eventually, it is the best to find a person who will be your mirror. Remember, only in another person's heart can you truly see yourself and the presence of God within you. So here we are told about the difference between two things. Loneliness is being alone and getting bored, where solitude is where you are alone, but you are reflecting, you are meditating. Solitude sometimes is the best society, said by John Milton in Paradise Lost, Book 9. So the same concept is by Emerson in his essay Nature, that solitude is different from loneliness. This tells you some mechanism to meditate, to know about you, to discuss yourself, and to get an idea who you really are. And sometimes if we have a person, so we can best see ourselves in another person's heart. Whatever happens in your life, no matter how troubling things might seem, do not enter the neighborhood of despair. Even when all doors remain closed, God will open up a new path only for you. Be thankful. It is easy to be thankful when all is well. A Sufi is thankful not only for what he has been given, but also for all that he has been denied. So, this is one of the most beautiful rules. This tells that we should be happy in the plan of Allah. Sometimes we plan for ourselves that I want to achieve this target, I want to win this match, I want to get this much score in my examination, I want to get this job, or I want to be successful in my business. Sometimes we are and sometimes we are not, and we lose the heart. So this is where we should remember rule 7, that do not lose your heart, rather be happy in the plan of Allah, because whatever He has planned is surely the best. So if He has planned that you're not going to get through, so we should be happy because it is what happened was what was willed by God, not by us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us much when we'll be there in heaven, inshallah. So that is the best thing. एक दुआ कबूल नहीं होगी तो उसके बदले में हमें इतनी नेकियां मिलेंगी ऊपर कि हम सोचेंगे कि काश हमारी दुनिया में कोई दुआ कबूल ना हुई होती. Rule 8. Patience does not mean to passively endure. It means to look at the end of a process. What does patience mean? It means to look at the throne and see the rose, to look at the night and see the dawn. Impatience means to be short sighted, as to not be able to see the outcome. The lovers of God never run out of patience, for they know the time is needed for the crescent moon to become full. कि रात के सबसे तारीक पहर के बाद सुबह का वक्त आता है. So hope should not be minimized. It should not be eliminated. Patience, सबर, ये मोहब्बत की एक शर्त है. अगर हम पेशेंस छोड़ देंगे हम शॉर्ट साइटेड हो जाएंगे. We'll never be able to see anything. We'll never able to see the God. Yes, if we are patient, तो हम कांटे से आगे हम एक गुलाब का फूल देख लेंगे. रात के बाद सुबह देख लेंगे. अंधेरे के बाद उजाला देख लेंगे. If we have patience. और मोहब्बत में सब्र का होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. Rule 9. East, west, south, north makes little difference. No matter what your destination, just be sure to make every journey a journey within. If you travel within, you'll travel the whole wide world and beyond. Like carry your own weather. Do not be disillusioned or do not be ruled by whatever is going outwards. Create your own weather. Like Satan in Paradise Lost. Here Milton says, the mind is its own place in itself that can change heaven into hell and hell in heaven. So that what matters is how strong you are when it comes to your thinking, when it comes to your imagination. So trust in you, believe in you, and carry your places within you. Try to create your own weather. Try to create your own happiness. Do not find happiness from without. Find it within. Rule 10. The midwife knows that when there is no pain, the way for the baby cannot be opened, and the mother cannot give birth. Likewise, for a new self to be born, hardship is necessary. Just as clay needs to go through intense heat to become strong, love can only be perfected in pain. It is a cliche that no pain, no gain. And sometimes by pain we come to greater pains, like Francis Bacon says. But there is no success without pain. No baby is born without taking the pain. No new self is born without going through the hardships, through the struggles, through incessant hard work. So, एक जो लोहा सबसे सख्त मेटल है उसको भी आग में जाके अपने आप को पिघलाना पड़ता है टू गेट न्यू शेप, तब वो एक नई शेप ले सकता है. सो एक नई शेप के लिए, एक नई सेल्फ के लिए वी हैव टू गो थ्रू अ प्रोसेस ऑफ पेन. खुदा की राह में जाने के लिए, खुदा से मोहब्बत के लिए जो रास्ता है इश्क का, उसके अंदर पेन है, तकालीफ है. बट विदाउट पेन वी कैन नॉट रीच सब्लिमिटी, and without that pain we cannot reach perfection. The quest for love changes user. There is no seeker among those who search for love who has not matured on the way. The moment you start looking for love, you start to change within and without. So rule 11 says that maturity comes to you the moment you start walking on the road of love. So this true love brings maturity to everyone in his outer personality as well as in his inner personality. इश्क हकीकी और इश्क मजाजी, इनकी जो मीनिंग्स हैं इसको अगर हम समझें तो डिफरेंस सिर्फ चेंज का है कि अगर हम अपनी ज़ात को एक शख्स के सामने पामाल कर दें, ख़त्म कर दें, अपना नफ्स मार दें, तो वो इश्क मजाजी है. और हम अगर अपनी ज़ात को किसी एक ज़ात की खुशी के लिए पूरी दुनिया के सामने पामाल कर दें, पूरी दुनिया के सामने नफ्स मार दें तो वो इश्क हकीकी है. Like we say, those people who are mystic, उनके बाल धूल में अटे हुए हैं, दाढ़ी बड़ी हुई है, वो एक जगह पे बैठे हुए हैं या धमाल डाल रहे हैं, we cannot understand the ecstasy they are going through because they are only linked with one person, and they don't have to do with this thing what rest of the people are thinking about them. Rule 12. There are more fake gurus and false teachers in the world than the number of stars in the visible universe. Don't confuse power driven, self centered people with true mentors. A genuine spiritual master will not direct your attention to himself or herself and will not expect absolute obedience or utter admiration for you, but instead will help you to appreciate and admire your inner self. True mentors are as transparent as glass. They let the light of God pass through it. So, this tells that there are certain people who are teaching, but they are not good teachers, they're fake. And there are certain teachers who are good and who really know what to teach and how to teach. Not everyone can be a good mentor, not everyone can be a good teacher. Your degrees of doctor or doctorate degrees, they do not ascertain how good teacher you are. That may make you a good researcher, but doesn't at all makes you a good teacher. So those people who are false, who are fake, they aim at this thing that you will be giving them proper obedience and you will be paying them complete attention and admire them. But the real teacher is just transparent like a glass. He lets you to choose the thing yourself and you see the light of God passing through them. उनकी पर्सनैलिटी में ही आपको एक नूर नजर आता है जो कि फेक टीचर्स में नहीं आता. Rule 13. Try not to resist the changes which come to your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? So we should not be afraid of changes or shifting or the variation in life. We do not know that the upcoming turn in our life may be better for us because it is all planned by Allah. And whatever Allah plans is the best. So इश्क के रास्ते में बहुत सारी मनाजिल आती. हम जिस मंजिल को अपने लिए आसान समझते हैं या आसानी समझते हैं वहाँ पे अगर हम बैठ जाएंगे तो हम अगली मनाजिल का लुत्फ नहीं ले पाएंगे. Rule 14. God is busy with the completion of your work, both outwardly and inwardly. He is fully occupied with you. Every human being is a work in progress that is slowly but inexorably moving towards perfection. We are each an unfinished work of art, both waiting and striving to be completed. God deals with each of us separately because humanity is fine art of skilled penmanship where every single dot is equally important for the entire picture. So all of us are going through certain process and that is process of perfection. God is giving us certain new abilities time and again, day by day, and He is busy with this. And He is making us perfect. And we are moving towards perfection because we are unfinished work of art and we need to be completed. And this is only love of Allah that can make us complete, that can make us perfect. Rule 15. It's easy to love a perfect God, unblemished and infallible, that He is. What is far more difficult to love fellow human being with all their imperfections and defects? Remember, one can only know what one is capable of loving. There is no wisdom without love. Unless we learn to love God's creation, we can neither truly love nor truly know God. अगर हम खुदा की बनाई हुई मखलूक से प्यार नहीं कर सकते, हम खुदा की क्रिएशंस को समझ नहीं सकते, हम खुदा की मोहब्बत तक नहीं पहुंच सकते. Because loving God is very easy because He is perfect. And loving or liking a perfect thing is no big deal. But loving the imperfection things or those people having defects in them, so this is what really counts. Because we should love everyone, every being, thinking that he or she is a creation of Allah. So if we are having this thing in our mind, that we are able to love Allah's creation, we are able to love Him more. Real faith is the one inside. The rest simply washes off. There is only one type of dirt that cannot be cleansed with pure water, and that is the stain of hatred and bigotry contaminating the soul. You can purify your body through abstinence and fasting, but only love will purify your heart. So, there are two ways. One is to wash your soul, and other to purify your heart. Soul can be washed by abstinence, so fasting, roza rakh le, parhez kar le. But for the purification of the heart, you need to be forgiving. You need to be eliminating the sense of hatred, और जो कदूरत हमारे दिल में जो लोगों के लिए नफ़रत है, जो हम उनके लिए एक कीना दिल में रखते हैं, जब तक हम इसको दिल से निकालेंगे नहीं, हमारा जन्नत का रास्ता, खुदा की मोहब्बत का रास्ता साफ नहीं हो सकता. Rule 17. The whole universe is contained within a single human being, you. Everything that you see around, including the things that you might not be fond of, and even the people you despair abhor, is present within you in varying degrees. Therefore, do not look for shaitan outside yourself either. The devil is not an extraordinary force that attacks from without. It is an ordinary voice within. If you set to know yourself fully, facing with honesty and hardship. Frostky, a poem in which he talks about external and internal loneliness, and Emily Dickinson's Ghost, in which he talks about devil or evil that is without and within. The same concept we find here, that there is an evil that we expect to be out, but that is very much here within. And that is so near to us, that is always corrupting us. वो हमारी सोल को हमेशा करप्ट करता है. हम लोगों को देख के उनसे नफरत करते हैं, कई लोगों से दूर जाते हैं, क्योंकि वो नफरत हमारे अंदर है. मुमकिन है कि एक बंदा जो जिससे आप नफरत करते हैं वो किसी और बंदे को वो बहुत ज़्यादा अजीज हो, या हम किसी को हकारत की निगाह से देख रहे हैं, अल्लाह की नज़र में उस बंदे का रुतबा बहुत बड़ा हो. सो हमें इसीलिए चाहिए कि अगर वो मोहब्बत को हासिल करना है, सो 17th रूल ये कहता है कि जो हमारे अंदर जो नफ़रत है, जो कि हमारी अपनी पैदा की हुई है, उस ईवल में जो कि बाहर नहीं है, हमारे अपने अंदर है, तो उसे ख़त्म कर दे. रूल 18. If you want to change the ways others treat you, you should first change the way you treat yourself, fully and sincerely. There is no way you can be loved, and once you achieve this stage, however, be thankful for every thorn that others might throw at you. It is a sign that you will soon be showered in roses. So if you want to be loved, love others. If you want to be loved, love yourself. If you want to be respected, give respect to yourself. ना इतने सख्त हो कि तोड़ लिए जाओ, ना इतने तर हो कि निचोड़ लिए जाओ. इंसान जब अपनी नज़र में अपनी इज़्ज़त बनाता है, उसे अपनी सेल्फ डिग्निटी का एहसास होता है, तो फिर लोग भी उसकी इज़्ज़त करते हैं. एंड वंस अ पर्सन रीचेस द स्टेज, तो रास्ते में बेशुमार कांटे आए भी, तो उसकी जो अगली मंजिल है वो फूलों की बरसात है, जो कि इंसान के ऊपर होती है. रूल 19. Fret not where the road will take you. Instead, concentrate on the first step. This is the hardest part, and that is what you are responsible for. Once you take the step, let everything do what it naturally does, and the rest will follow. Do not go with the flow, be the flow. सिर्फ पहला कदम उठाना मुश्किल है. And if you are able to take that step towards anything, then everything becomes normal. Like Paulo Coelho says, when you plan for a thing, all the universe conspires to bring that planning towards success. So the same is case here. So we should be like flowing naturally, like in a way that we should not follow the patterns like road not taken. The poet says that I chose the way which was less traveled by. So even if you choose a way which is less traveled by, do not feel fret, go with it. You can be the flow if you're going in a dynamic way, if you're going in an unorthodox, in an avant-garde, in a radical way. That way can be made better if you are truly on the path of love. Rule 20. We were all created in His image, and yet we are each created different and unique. No two people are alike. No hearts beat to the same rhythm. If God had wanted everyone to be the same, He would have made it so. Therefore, disrespecting differences and imposing your thoughts on others is an amount to disrespecting God's holy scheme. That God has created human beings. For example, if there are 9 billion people, there are 9 billion idiolects. हर एक बंदे का बोलने का अंदाज डिफरेंट है. अब इतने लोग अल्लाह ने डिफरेंट बनाए तो इस वजह से बनाए क्योंकि उनकी डिफरेंट करैक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं. कोई लोग आपस में बिल्कुल सेम नहीं है, कोई बिल्कुल यूनिक नहीं है. एक आधी चीज़, दो चीज़ें, 10 चीज़ें मिलती होंगी, करैक्टरिस्टिक्स मिलती होंगी, शक्लें मिलती होंगी, बट दे कैन नेवर बी एग्जैक्टली सेम. खुदा ने बिल्कुल एक डिफरेंट पैटर्न पे हर ह्यूमन बीइंग बनाया. हर एक ह्यूमन बीइंग के फिंगर्स में जो फिंगरप्रिंट्स हैं वो डिफरेंट कर दिए, हर एक को एक दूसरे से यूनिक कर दिया. So if we are not agreeing with what one person says, so we should not be disrespecting him. In this way we are disrespecting God. And this goes to the love of religion. There are so many sects in a religion, but one sect is being offended with the other. एक दूसरे पे जहर उगल रहा है. हालांकि अगर हम सोचें कि ये खुदा की क्रिएशन है और हर बंदे की एक अपनी सोच है. So if we are able to love humanity, we are better able to love God. When a true lover of God goes into a tavern becomes his chamber of prayer. But when a wine bibbler goes into the same chamber, it becomes his tavern. In everything we do, it is our hearts that make the difference, not our outer appearance. Sufis do not judge other people on how they look or who they are. When a Sufi stares at someone, he keeps both eyes closed, instead opens a third eye, the eye that sees the inner realm. So the personality doesn't matter at all. What matters is your character. काबे के अंदर, काबे के आसपास अगर हम जाएं, हम देखेंगे कि वहाँ पे भी बेशुमार लोग डिसऑनेस्टी करें और आपको एक मैखाने के अंदर भी वो लोग मिलेंगे जो नेक हैं, शरीफ हैं और अल्लाह को पसंद करते हैं, अल्लाह से मोहब्बत करते हैं और अल्लाह उनसे मोहब्बत करता है. सो आपका वजूद कहाँ पे है, दिस डजंट मैटर. व्हाट मैटर्स इज हाउ यू आर फ्रॉम योर इनसाइड. और एक सूफ़ी जो है वो इंसान को उसकी अपीयरेंस से जज नहीं करता, वो अपनी दोनों आंखें बंद कर लेता है और अपनी मन की आंख से जज करता है इंसान की औकात को, उसकी असलियत को, उसके किरदार को. Rule 22. Life is a temporary loan and this world is nothing but a sketchy imitation of reality. Only children would mistake a toy for the real thing. And yet human beings either become infatuated with the toy or disrespectfully break it and throw it aside. In this life, stay away from all kinds of extremities, for they will destroy your inner balance. Sufis do not go to extremes. A Sufi always remains mild and moderate. तो दुनिया क्या है? This is a sketchy imitation of reality. ये एक imitation है, एक शराब है, ख्वाब है. और हम अगर इसमें बस जाएंगे, हम इसकी रिस्पेक्ट करेंगे जिस तरह एक बच्चा टॉय की रिस्पेक्ट करता है, और अगर हम इससे नफ़रत करेंगे जिस तरह के बच्चा टॉयज़ को तोड़ देता है, ये दोनों एक्सट्रीम्स गलत हैं। जो सूफ़ी है वो बेहतरीन और दरमियाना रास्ता इख्तियार करता है कि वो ना दुनिया के करीब जाता है ना उससे दूर जाता। यानी कि एक मोमिन वो है जिसकी तन्हाई पाक है, महफिल तो बहुत सारे लोगों की पाक होती है। सो वो मोमिन दुनिया में भी रह के खुदा के करीब है, और वो खुदा के करीब रह के भी दुनिया से लिंक्ड है। The human being has a unique place among God's creation. I breathed into him of my spirit, God says. Each and every one of us, without exception, is designed to be God's delegate on earth. Ask yourself, just how often do you behave like a delegate? If you ever do so, remember, it falls upon each of us to discover the divine spirit inside and live by it. So God has instilled His breath into us. Like उसने हमारे अंदर रूह फूंक दी है, हमारे अंदर सांस फूंक दी है। बेसिकली इसमें क्या है कि खुदा ने जब हमारे अंदर वो नूर डाल दिया, वो स्पिरिट डाल दी, यानी हम उस स्पिरिट के एक कैरियर हैं। तो देखना यह है कि हम उस स्पिरिट को लेके, यानी वो खुदा की अमानत जो हमारे अंदर है, वो जो खुदा की दी हुई एक चीज़ हमारे अंदर है, जो नूर हमारे अंदर है, जो एक अमानत हमारे पास है, हम उसके साथ सलूक कैसा करें। How actually are we behaving if we are delegate of God on earth? Hell is in the here and now, so is heaven. Quit worrying about hell or dreaming about heaven, as they're both present inside this very moment. Every time we fall in love, we ascend to heaven. Every time we hate, envy, or fight someone, we tumble straight into the fires of hell. Here, in this rule, we are said, or we are told, that we should be on the loving part, not towards the hating part. So there is no concept of hell or heaven without love and hate. So if we are able to love God, and if we are able to love Allah's creation, we are going towards heaven. And if we are going opposite, we are going directly to hell. Each and every reader comprehends the Holy Quran on a different level of tandem, with the depth of his understanding. There are 4 levels of insight. The first level is the outer meaning, and it is the one that the majority of the people are content with. Next is the batin, the inner level. Third is the inner of the inner. And the fourth level is so deep it cannot be put into words, and it is therefore bound to remain indescribable. So हम होली कुरान को पढ़ते हैं डिफरेंट अंडरस्टैंडिंग से. Sometimes surface reading है, sometimes we are trying to understand the translation, sometimes we are going beyond that जो कि बातिन का लेवल है, and sometimes we reach a level that is beyond description. क्योंकि इंसान जब ये सोचे कि खुदा इंसान से मुखातिब है होली कुरान के ज़रिए, तो ये तो वो किताब है जो कि पहाड़ पे रखी जाती तो पहाड़ रेज़ा रेज़ा हो जाता, जिसे मोहम्मद मुस्तफ़ा सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के दिल में उतारा गया, वो ही इस किताब को संभाल सके. तो अगर हम ये सोच के इस किताब को पढ़ें तो फिर उसके मीनिंग्स बियॉन्ड डिस्क्रिप्शन है. द यूनिवर्स इज़ वन बीइंग. Everything and everyone is interconnected through an invisible web of stories. Whether we are aware of it or not, we are all in the silent conversation. Do not harm. Practice compassion. And do not gossip behind anyone's back, not even a seemingly innocent remark. The words that come out of our mouths do not vanish, but they're perpetually stored in the infinite space, and they will come back to us in a due time. One man's pain will hurt us all. One man's joy will make everyone smile. So here in this rule, we are told about certain strategies which can help us in loving better. We should not harm anyone. We should have compassion. We should not have backbiting. And even an innocent remark which is said on the back of someone that may not like by him is backbiting. और जो हम बात किसी के खिलाफ कर देते हैं वो उसकी एक अमानत बन जाती है जो उस शख्स तक पहुंचती है. सो हमें चाहिए कि हम ये जो एक परपेचुअल अपने लिए ग्रीफ्स इकट्ठे कर रहे हैं, अपनी नेकियों को तबाह कर रहे हैं, जला रहे हैं, अपने मुर्दा भाई का गोश्त खा रहे हैं, हम इससे बास रहें. हराम खा के वी कैन नॉट गो ऑन द path of love. Whatever you speak, good or evil, will somehow come back to you. Therefore, if there is someone who harbors ill thought about you, saying similarly bad things about him will only make matters worse. You will be locked in a vicious circle of malevolent energy. Instead, for 40 days and nights, say and think nice things about that person. Everything will be different at the end of 40 days because you will be different inside. किसी की बुराई करना बहुत आसान है, किसी की तारीफ करना उतना ही मुश्किल. अगर आप किसी शख्स से ताल्लुकात बेहतर रखना चाहते हैं तो उसकी पीठ के पीछे उसकी तारीफ करें. 40 दिन की ये प्रैक्टिस आपके अंदर से भी वो नफ़रत निकाल देगी जो उसके ख़िलाफ़ है, और जब वो सुनेगा क्योंकि वो अमानत उस तक पहुंचेगी तो वो भी आपकी उस नफ़रत से अगर उसके दिल में है तो उसे ख़त्म करके मोहब्बत में आएगा. सो दीज आर द रूल्स जो कि इंसान को इंसान की मोहब्बत में आगे लेके आते हैं. और जब इंसान इंसान से मोहब्बत करता है तो खुदा बारी ताला से मोहब्बत बहुत जल्द हो जाती है. The past is an interpretation. The future is an illusion. The world does not move through time as if it were a straight line proceeding from the past to the future. Instead, time moves through and within us in endless spirals. Eternity does not mean infinite time, but simply timelessness. If you want to experience eternal illumination, put the past and future out of your mind and remain within the present moment. So this is said, past is history, future is mystery. Live in present because today is called present, that is why it is a gift. So we should be living for the moment, for this moment where we are living, and we should be living happily. So this also means that if we are living for the moment, we should be making it a better one. कि अगर हम कहीं पे हैं तो हम ऐसा वक्त गुजारें जो कि बेहतरीन हो. Rule 29. Destiny does not mean that your life has been strictly predetermined. Therefore, to live everything to the fate and not actively contribute to the music of the universe is a sign of sheer ignorance. The music of the universe is all pervading and it's composed on 40 different levels. Your destiny is the level where you play your tune. You might not change your instrument, but how well to play is entirely in your hands. कि आप अपनी लाइफ कैसे गुजारते हैं, that's what really counts. There are 40 rules of love. Choose one and your life will be better. अब कुछ चीज़ें जो कि हमारी किस्मत में लिख दी गई, हमारा जीना मरना, हमारा रिस्क, हमारी जो मौत, तो ये सारे सामान हमारे लिख दिए गए. लेकिन कई चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो कि हमारे हाथ में हैं. अगर हम उन चीज़ों को यूज़ करें और इग्नोरेंस में रह के उसको भी ज़ाया मत कर दें कि होना वही है जो लिखा है, तो हम अपनी लाइफ को तबाह कर देंगे. सो व्हाट वी नीड टू डू इज़, हम जो डेस्टिनी हमारी इज़ द लेवल वी प्ले आवर ट्यून. हम कौन सी ट्यून कहाँ प्ले करते हैं, हम कौन सा रोल कैसे प्ले करते हैं, हम कहाँ पे कैसे बिहेव करते हैं. सो हमारी डेस्टिनी किसी हद तक हमारे अपने हाथ में भी है. Rule 30. The true Sufi is such that even when he is unjustly accused, attacked, and condemned from all sides, he patiently endures, uttering not a single bad word about any of his critics. A Sufi never apportions blame. How can there be opponents or rivals or even others when there is no self in the first place? How can there be anyone to blame when there is only one? So, if we are blamed, it is just because we are taking care of ourselves. We have the self, हमारे अंदर अना है. तो जब हम होंगे ही नहीं तो हम पे ब्लेम कौन करेगा, हमारे क्रिटिक्स कौन होंगे, हम पे आवाज़ कौन उठाएगा, उंगली कौन उठाएगा. सो दिस रूल सेज टू फिनिश योर ईगो. आप अपनी ज़ात को ख़त्म कर दें, तो नॉट इन द वे कि आप अपने आप को मार दें, बट इन दिस वे कि लाइक अपनी अना को ख़त्म करते हैं. फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह रब्बिल आलमीन जब हम ये पढ़ते हैं तो हम यानी कुरान पाक की शुरुआत में ही हमें बता दिया गया कि सब तारीफ़ें अल्लाह के लिए, तो इंसान की ज़ात ख़त्म हो जाती है वहाँ पे. हम अपने आप को काबिल तारीफ़ समझते हैं कि लोग हमारी तारीफ़ करें, लोग हमारे बारे में लिखें, लोग हमारे बारे में बुरी बात ना कहें. लेकिन यहाँ पे सब कुछ ख़त्म हो जाता है जब हम कहते हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह रब्बिल आलमीन के सब तारीफ़ें उस मालिक कायनात के लिए जो कि तमाम जहानों का रब है. सो हम वहीं पे अपनी असलियत को समझ जाते हैं कि हम किस खेत की मूली. Rule 31. If you want to strengthen your faith, you will need to soften inside. For your faith to be rock solid, your heart needs to be as soft as a feather. Through an illness, accident, loss of right, one way or another, we are all faced with incidents that teach us how to become less selfish and judgmental, and more compassionate and generous. Yet some of us learn the lesson and manage to become milder, while some others end up becoming harsher than before. So there is certain change that our lives are filled with so many incidents, and those sometimes make us softer and sometimes harsher. So it all depends upon who you are. If you have strong bases and if you believe whatever is happening is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then every happening makes you soften. And if you feel that you don't have any belief or that belief is not firm, then you become harsher. जैसा अली ने कहा कि ताकत, शोहरत, इज़्ज़त इस ये यानी दौलत वगैरह ये इनके मिलने के बाद इंसान बदलता नहीं है, बेनिकाब हो जाता है. सो वी आर हु वी आर. Circumstances make the real self come forward. Rule 32. Nothing should stand between you and God. No imams, priests, rabbis, or any other custodians of moral or religious leadership. Not spiritual masters and not even your faith. Believe in your values and your rules, but never lord them over others. If you keep breaking others' hearts, whatever religious duty you perform is not good. Stay away from all sorts of idolatry, for they will blur your vision. Let God and only God be your guide. Learn the truth, my friend, but be careful not to make a fetish out of your truth. So there is only way to reach Allah, and that is the way Allah has given to us. Like there's no person who can take you to Him. There's no custodian of religion. There's no false peer who can lead you to Him. Though there are certain genuine people, but they do not expose themselves. But this opportunity is availed by those who are fake, fraud. So अगर आप लोगों के दिलों को तोड़ें तो अब जो रिलीजियस ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं उसकी कोई अहमियत नहीं है, क्योंकि सर्विंग पीपल इज़ द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग. Rule 33. While everyone in this world strives to get somewhere and become someone, only to leave it all behind after that, you aim for the supreme stage of nothingness. Live this life as light and empty as the number zero. We're no different from a pot. It is not the decorations outside, but the emptiness inside that holds us straight. Just like that, it is not what we aspire to achieve, but the consciousness of nothingness that keeps us going. Like if we are having so many worldly enchantments around us, they will keep us busy with them. So live a life that is filled with nothingness, that we don't have to take with us anything when we die. सो मरने के बाद हमने जब खाली हाथ जाना है, सिकंदर पूरी दुनिया पे राज करने का एक सपना लेके खाली हाथ मरा। सो हम इस दुनिया में खाली हाथ आते हैं, हम जाते भी खाली आते हैं। सो दिस इज़ व्हाट, ये यानी हमारी अहमियत ये है, दिस इज़ व्हाट वी रियली आर। सो हम एक पॉट की तरह बन जाए कि जिसकी बाहर की तरफ से बल्कि हम है एक पॉट की तरह कि जो बाहर से डेकोरेटेड हो ना हो, अंदर से वो खाली है। सो दिस इज़ व्हाट वी नीड टू थिंक, कि हम उस नथिंगनेस को याद रखें कि हम जितना माल जोड़ लेंगे, अल्टीमेटली दिस इज़ गोइंग टू गिव अस नो बेनिफिट व्हेन वी आर डेड। हाँ, unless that is spent in the way, in the correct path of Allah, in which we can serve the people through what we have gathered. Rule 34. Submission does not mean being weak or passive. It leads to neither fatalism nor capitulation, just the opposite. True power resides in submission, a power that comes within. Those who submit to the divine essence of life will live in unperturbed tranquility and peace even the whole wide world goes through turbulence after turbulence. So just learn to bend, थोड़ा सा झुकना सीखें। हम अगर सबमिट करते हैं तो डजंट मीन कि हम पैसिव हैं, एक्टिव नहीं है, वीक हैं, स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं है। थिंक इज ऑपोजिट। जो ट्रू पावर है वो सबमिशन में, और ये पावर हमारे अंदर से आती है। अगर हम इस चीज़ को जहन में रख लें तो दुनिया बेशक जितनी मर्जी खराबियों से गुजरे, हमारी लाइफ पुरसुकून होगी, क्योंकि वी हैव सबमिटेड अवर विल टू द विल ऑफ गॉड, कि एक तेरी चाहत है और एक मेरी चाहत है, लेकिन होगा वही जो मेरी चाहत है। बस अगर तूने स्पुर्द कर दिया खुद को जो मेरी चाहत है, तो मैं अता कर दूंगा तुझको वो जो तेरी चाहत है। लेकिन अगर तू भटक गया उसमें जो तेरी चाहत है, तो मैं तुझको भटका दूंगा उसमें जो कि तेरी चाहत है। फिर होगा वही जो मेरी चाहत है। In this world, it is not similarities or regularities that take us a step forward, but blunt opposites. And all the opposites in the universe are present within each and every one of us. Therefore, the believer needs to meet the unbeliever residing within, and the non-believer should get to know the silent faithful in him until the day one reaches the stage of Insan Kamil, the perfect human being. Faith is a gradual process and one that necessitates its seeming opposite, disbelief. So, there are certain things which are blunt opposite, and all the opposites in the universe are present within, और हमारे अंदर भी हैं. Therefore, the believer needs to meet the unbeliever, जो कि हमारे अंदर मौजूद है. If we are believer, there is also unbeliever within, जिसको हमें मिलने की ज़रूरत है और उसे ठीक करने की ज़रूरत है. हमें अपना वकील बनने से बेहतर है कि हम अपने जज बने, और दूसरों के जज बनने से बेहतर है उनकी वकालत करें. So this makes us the Insan Kamil, the perfect human being. Rule 36. The word is erected upon the principle of reciprocity. Neither a drop of kindness nor a speck of evil will remain unreciprocated. For not the plots, deceptions, or tricks of other people. If somebody is setting a trap, remember, so is God. He is the biggest plotter. Not even a leaf stirs outside God's knowledge. Simply and fully believe in that. Whatever God does, He does it beautifully. So this rule tells us that we should believe in the working and the plan of God. There are certain people who are jealous of you, who are wicked, who are your enemy, and they're trying to plot against you. But remember, होना वो ये जो खुदा ने लिखा है. अगर उनकी कोई एक कोई हरकत, कोई उनकी प्लान कामयाब होता है, तो दैट इज़ ओनली बिकॉज कि अल्लाह ने भी यही चाहा था, क्योंकि अल्लाह इज़ द बेस्ट प्लानर. ये इंसान को लगता है कि हम प्लानिंग कर रहे हैं और हमारी मर्जी से हो रहा है जो हो रहा है. नो, दिस इज़ व्हाट अल्लाह हैज़ ऑलरेडी प्लान्ड. सो वी शुड बी हैप्पी इन हिज प्लानिंग. Whatever he does this beautifully. Rule 37. God is a meticulous dockmaker. So precise is his order that everything on earth happens in its own time, neither a minute late or nor a minute delay. And for everyone, without exception, the clock work separately. For each there is time to live and a time to die. So this tells us that everything is in perfect order. Nature is perfect. God has made everything in perfect order. Whatever happens, happens on such a moment that God has planned for it. So we should be happy in His planning, His timing. कई दफ़ा हम जल्दबाजी में आ जाते हैं कि ये चीज़ें हमारी मर्ज़ी से नहीं हो रही, बट वी फॉरगेट कि हर चीज़ को अल्लाह ने प्लान किया है, हर चीज़ को अल्लाह ने टाइम किया, एंड दैट टाइमिंग इज़ द बेस्ट टाइमिंग. सो दिस लीड्स टू द लव ऑफ अल्लाह. Rule 38. It is never too late to ask yourself, am I ready to change the life I am living? Am I ready to change within? Even if a single day in your life is the same day as before, it surely is a pity. At every moment and with each new breath, one should be renewed and renewed again. There is only one way to be born into a life, to die before death. So daily we need to think, if we want to be on the path of love, whether are we changing or not. इसकी छोटी सी एग्जांपल है कि अगर एज अ टीचर मैं जब से पढ़ा रहा हूँ और आज तक मैं वैसे का वैसा हूँ, मेरे इल्म में, मेरे तजर्बे में, मेरे पढ़ाने के एक तरीके में चेंज नहीं आई, सो दिस इज़ अ पिटी. इसी तरह मुसलमान हो के हम जिस तरह रह रहे हैं और अगर हम ऐसे ही रहते रहते हैं, हमारे अंदर कोई अच्छी चेंज नहीं आ रही, सो दैट इज़ अ पिटी टू. सो वी नीड टू बी चेंजिंग एवरी डे फॉर द सेक ऑफ लव. While the parts change, the whole always remains the same. For every thief who departs this world, a new one is born. And every decent person who passes away is replaced by a new one. In this way, not only does nothing remain the same, but also nothing ever really changes. For every Sufi who dies, another is born somewhere. You're not the only one to go away from God. And you're not the only one to love Him. There's so many people who are on the right track, and many are on the wrong track too. One wicked person dies and leaves another. One good person dies and leaves one behind. So this is a change, a process of change which is continuous. The only thing that doesn't change is the word change itself. And the last rule, the rule 40th. A life without love is of no account. Do not ask yourself what kind of love you should seek, spiritual or material, divine or mundane, Eastern or Western. Divisions only lead to more divisions. Love has no labels, no definitions. It is what it is, pure and simple. Love is like the water of life, and a lover is a soul of fire. The universe turns differently when fire loves water. So this is what love is. Love क्या है? वो एक ज़िंदगी, एक पानी की तरह, और लवर जो है वो उसकी सोल एक आग की तरह. ये आग और पानी का मिलाप है. मोहब्बत के बगैर ज़िंदगी नहीं है. कई लोग इस मंडेन लव या जो मटीरियल लव है इसके, या जो एक इश्क मजाजी के ख़िलाफ़ होते हैं, बट इश्क मजाजी इज़ अ स्टेप. It teaches you to reach towards इश्क हकीकी. इश्क मजाजी आपको इश्क हकीकी करना सिखाता है, उसके तौर तरीके सिखाता है, उसके अदब आदाब सिखाता है. So these are 40 rules of love from the book, from the famous book of Elif Shafak, which is about Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi and his mentor Hazrat Shams Tabraiz, जिन्होंने ये 40 रूल्स दिए मोहब्बत के. अगर हम इन मोहब्बत के रूल्स को समझ जाएं तो हम खुदा की तरफ अपने रास्ते को सीधा कर लेते हैं, और हम दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा खुदा के करीब चाहने वाले, मोहब्बत करने वाले, और इंसानों में भी हमदर्द और मोहब्बत करने वाले शफीक इंसान बन सकते हैं.